Okay, I believe we are live. So, welcome to Tamarah's Closet today. It's my first episode of the new year, and I have a really incredibly talented guest with me today. I'm very excited about it. He's a wildlife photographer joining me from South Africa. I've actually been admiring his work on Facebook for quite some time now. And he's got a gorgeous wife, two beautiful children. He owns his own waste and recycling business with about 300 employees. And 4 years ago, he decided to explore his passion for photographing wildlife. He's won numerous awards and he's been featured in many magazines. And he has currently joined up with a large safari company, which I'll have him talk about later, taking photographers to exotic places to expose them to the African bush and wildlife. So I'd like to go ahead and bring him out. I want to welcome today Clint Ralph. Clint, say hello so I know you're still with me.
Hi, Tamarah. How are you doing?
I am wonderful, and I know we had a little delay getting started, but there's always some kind of little technical issue. But I wanted to know, I always like to know a little history about, I wanted to know when did you discover, when did you pick up your first camera? How old were you when you discovered you had a passion for photography?
I started taking photographs at about 15, 16 years old. But not in any particular professional manner or anything, just fooling around. And then I left it for many, many years. And about 4 or 5 years ago, a friend introduced me back into it, and bought a second-hand camera and this old lens, and I started taking the photos, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It just bit the bug bit, and I've never looked back.
Wow.
A wonderful journey.
Yeah. Is there a history of, do you have artists in your family history at all, or?
Not at all, not me either. So
No.
there's no art. There's no art in these paintings.
Well, there is an art in what you do. You are an artist. You're an artist of photography. So, I mean, that's
I think I get lucky every now and again.
Well, you're an artist. You just don't realize it. So, what I like to had you always been fascinated with wildlife, from childhood, or?
Yeah, I think living in South Africa, there's a lot of game reserves and bush and wilderness around us. We're very fortunate, and we have a lot of great game and wildlife and a great variety. So since a youngster, we got camping, and my parents took me out, and I now follow the same vein with my children and take them to the bush as much as I can. So it's always been out there. We've always been exposed to it. And I think, like anything, the more exposure you get, positive exposure, the more you get into it and the more you like it. And the passion has just grown. Just absolutely love being out there. For me, it's soul soothing. It soothes my soul.
Wow, I know it does. And I've been fascinated with wildlife since I was growing up, because my father had a subscription to the National Geographic. So that was probably my first experience. And then there was that show put on by Mutual of Omaha many, many years ago. I can't, so wildlife has always fascinated me. And so when I found you on Facebook, I really have enjoyed watching your photographs. And when you started 4 years ago, how did you go about learning in the beginning? Because you had to obviously learn about lenses and the camera and just the photography in general.
Yeah, they've come a long way since 16 years ago, or however many years ago it was, many, many years ago. So I thought there's two ways of doing it. Either I can get the manual out and read the manual, and I'm definitely not a manual person. I'm too hyper to even open the manual to look at it. So I thought probably the next best way to do it is to identify top photographers, go and nag them and harass them until they allowed me to join them. And I used to go with them and just sit quietly in the corner and listen to what they have to say. And now and again, they'd throw me a tidbit and say, you should try doing that. And eventually they realized that I'm actually in this for the long run. And they took me under their wing, and they gave me a few more tips and eventually a few of their secrets and photographic secrets. And then they started taking me along. And you probably learn the most like that. And it's a very good community. I mean, the guys are very generous with their information and their lecturing and their teaching. So I learned quickly. That's probably the quickest way to learn, to hang out with the right guys, and learn from them.
Yeah, and today with YouTube so accessible, we can learn a lot. You just have to find people that are very credible on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah,
And I know there's good and there's bad, but once you do, it's a great way to learn what we couldn't learn
yeah,
before without the
yeah. It's
internet.
it's
Now,
certainly better to do it in the field.
huh?
It's certainly better to learn in the field than to read manuals and magazines. You just get a better feel for it.
Yeah, you do. I mean, everything I've learned from other people is that you don't learn until you just get out there and do it yourself. But now, what was your first experience like? How do you when the first time you went out in the bush? What was that like?
Well, I think the first real photographic trip that I did was to the bearded vultures. They're really endangered vulture in we call them the Drakensberg Mountains. And there's a little hide, a tiny little hide on top of a cliff, and they fly past. They're like these giant airships, and they're the most magnificent birds you've ever seen in your life, and their features, and they're just stunning. And being endangered and vulnerable, that makes them even more special. And that was the first time I was taken there by two fellow photographers, professionals, and we sat there for 3 days just taking photographs, and it was absolutely riveting, insane, incredible. And I left there just taken. I was just so excited. I had to get back. I had to get back to the bush, and I had to get out there. And that probably was the biggest thing that just grabbed me and said, this is it. This is my passion.
Wow. Now, when you're doing that, do you sometimes feel like, do you have to make a decision whether it's better to just enjoy the moment or the beauty of the animal and not take the photograph? Or is it always about the photograph?
Well, for me, I probably miss a lot of the wildlife because I'm always behind the lens, and my eye was all stuck against the body of the camera. So I look, for me, it is an art form. I love I'm addicted to the sound of that shutter going off. I just love the sound. That shutter sounds ridiculous, but I am. I love it. And I just love taking every photo. I take thousands of photos, and you come back and you maybe keep 3 or 4 or 5% of them. But to find that one really top image, it's just, when you get it and you get home and you've downloaded and you find that one image, that jackal buzzard that's marching, that sort of thing. It's just so rewarding. The reward is just out of this world. So it's worth it's worth losing a little bit here and there. We're not watching them, just always looking through the lens. But for me, it's absolutely worth it.
Right.
I must tell you a funny story, though. I got to tell you a funny story.
Okay.
How I got into this whole thing, because, like I said in the beginning, I had this old second-hand camera, and old second-hand lens, and it wasn't up to scratch. And in those days, 4 or 5 years ago, I used to race motorbikes, also in the bush. We used to do enduros and motocross and all this crazy stuff. And my wife said to me, "Listen, you're getting a little bit old for this adrenaline junkie nonsense of yours. So why don't you sell your motorbike, take the money, and buy yourself some proper equipment?" And that's how my photography started. I sold the motorbike, sold my kit, and I ended up buying all the equipment with it. So it was a good trade-off.
Oh, yeah.
A much safer trade-off.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that was a good trade-off, I think.
Yeah.
But how do you feel like you build trust with these animals, especially the larger animals, the ones that are, not like the birds, but the lions and all that, the large creatures?
Yeah, there's a few things. First of all, respect. That's probably the single most important thing. Respect the animals. You're in their space. Don't intrude on them. Don't disturb them. Unfortunately, a lot of people come to Africa and they think these are pets, and they get too close, and that's when the elephant will roll the car, or a lion will take somebody. There's been cases where people have been killed by lions or elephants, etc. So really, it's all about respect and getting to know your subject. You need to know. We spend a lot of time out there. We spend a lot of time in the bush. We spend a lot of time, days and days and days and weeks on end, just watching these animals, and you get to know their habits. You get to know their warning signals. A lion will tell you, or most wild animals will tell you when you are too close or you're starting to get into their space, and there's ample warning. So just back off. And give them a respectful distance. Each animal has a certain distance that they're comfortable with. Some are more, some are less. But you know, that's the essence of it. Just be respectful.
Well, when you first saw or were close, and I don't know how close you really are, but when you first saw your first lion, there had to be, I mean, I think I would be petrified. I think I would be excited but petrified, you know.
Yeah. Look, it's maybe I'm just stupid, so I don't get, don't get scared or anything. But again, it's knowing the animal, knowing what the limits are. And I mean, often we'll be in open vehicles, and the lion will walk past 2 meters from you. You can smell it, you can hear it breathing. It's the most incredible sensation to have this incredibly large beast walking past you. Literally, you can hear the breath from it. But if you sit still, you don't stand up. If you stand up, you're dead. So there's certain things you have to do, and you don't be stupid. Often we'll be in a little canvas miniature tent, and you sit inside there, and the animal walk right past you, be it a buffalo or a lion or an elephant. And again, they see that as just as a rock or something. So don't move, don't stick your head out, because then you identify yourself. So there's certain sort of principles that you follow when you're out there, but you get to know them, and you get to understand how to work with them. But again, don't take chances. That's the essence of it. Just don't take chances.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think that's amazing. I would love to do it, but I don't know. I got a lot of courage. I don't know if I have that courage.
No, you'll love it. It's the most thrilling experience you'll ever have. Africa is thrilling. Africa is the most thrilling continent. It really is. It's everything and more that you can dream of.
Oh, I'm sure. I know I would love it. I would just have to get over that little fear. But how do you separate yourself? And I know this is a tough question, and so I was having trouble wording it a little bit. How do you separate yourself from, say, the art of photography? I know you don't consider yourself an artist, but you are. I've seen your work. How do you separate yourself from the art of photography and what you're experiencing out in the field in the wildlife versus trying to capture them and capture that moment versus looking for a shot? Or because are you looking for, how do you separate from looking for a shot and letting it happen? Maybe.
Yeah. I think my photography has progressed from just capturing the moment and documenting the animal and the birds, etc., to the point now where everybody, there's a lot of good photographers out there. In fact, everybody's a good photographer with the equipment we have as well. So I've moved from the fact where I'm now trying to find unusual situations. So be it two vultures having a fight, or a lion with a broken tooth. You must have seen my lion, the big male lion with a broken tooth, or the image behind me where you just take half of it. I mean, that is an incredible difficult shot to shoot because in the middle of the night, the lighting was bad. We had no shutter speed with a massive lens. You were shooting at 1/100th of a second, so your camera shake. I must have taken 600 photographs to get that one image that was sharp and perfect. So it's one thing just taking photographs, and it's nice and it's rewarding, but I think eventually every photographer starts looking for his niche and his signature images. So I try and look for that more difficult photograph. I still take all the portrait shots and I take the other photographs, but you're always looking for that image that's going to go pow. It's going to just stand up and grab everybody and say, when they're scrolling through Facebook at speed, that image has got to jump out and say, you got to look at me. I'm a great image. That's what we strive for all the time. Yeah, so you're not always thinking art and that sort of thing. You're just looking for that really spectacular image or spectacular moment or setting, something that's just catches everybody's attention.
Yeah, and this photograph behind you, so I want to let you go ahead and talk a little more about it, and if there's others that you want to show, because I was telling you before we started today, this image behind you is one that I saw, it may have even been a year ago, and I was so inspired by the image. And I told you that I have a little Shih Tzu, a little dog, which is a Shih Tzu with the long hair, and they're called the little lion dogs. And so I was so fascinated by this image, the beauty of it. and I wanted to kind of learn the lighting of that image, only in the studio, of course, with the dog, not out where you were. And so it was just a fun project for me. And, you know, so I just wanted you to know that that is just the most beautiful, because I have always had a fascination with lions. So I wanted you to tell a little bit about that moment and that photograph, and any others that you have with you.
Sure. That particular image, it's very special to me. That's probably why I've got it up in my office. We found that male is a big pride male, and he was a really robust specimen. He was big, he was strong, he was in his prime. And we found him late afternoon, and he was busy calling out and marking his territory. And we spent the next number of hours following him with two game vehicles. It was up in Botswana in the Okavango Delta. And we followed him through the water and the bushveld, and he moved far and wide. And I've got some incredible shots of him, some really beautiful, beautiful images. But that particular shot, eventually, quite late at night, there were two vehicles, and we managed to get far ahead of him, and he walked straight towards our vehicle, and the other vehicle, game vehicle, was on the side of him and lit him from the side. And I realized then that it's so black in Africa that because there's no ambient light in it, if I can get the shot of him, only half of him is lit up, and with him walking directly at me, I wouldn't get his body in. So it's going to be one of those really, really unusual shots. But it took so long to get that image, and I had a big lens that I must have taken, like I said, 5 or 600 shots. By the time I got this particular image, he was on top of us, and all I could shoot was his face. It was so close, and it was probably the last few moments when I managed to nail the shot. Because he's walking, you don't have shutter speed, you're trying to keep your ISO down so there's not grain, and it was a tremendously difficult shot, but incredibly satisfying when I got it. Absolutely satisfying.
What was the ISO on this shot? Do you remember?
It was probably 3,000 or 4,000. It was quite high. But technology now, the cameras handle it quite well. The software programs, you can deal with your grain quite nicely.
Yeah, but see, to me, this photograph is like a cover for a coffee table book on lions.
Absolutely.
I think that would be a great cover for
I've actually sold a lot of these. I sell the canvases because on canvas all of these images look absolutely beautiful. Just the texture, they just look beautiful. So I sell a lot of these images to people overseas. I sell them, I do them on canvas, and I DHL them or courier them across to them. And they're quite popular, especially with the overseas market. They don't always have the privilege of getting to Africa and experience it firsthand. So it's probably second best to have a really beautiful image or something like that on their walls.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to be getting one of your lion images, and this is one that I just can't decide which one, but this is high on my list for sure. I keep, yeah. But is there another image that you want to show?
There's an image. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it from there. I'll turn it around. If you have a look over there, can you see the zebra?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That image was also a very, very special moment. I was fortunate enough to be invited to Masai Mara to the migration, the wildebeest migration in Kenya. I think it was in September last year, and it is the most spectacular experience you'll ever have. There are just hundreds of thousands of animals, zebra and wildebeest and lion and cheetah and leopard and hyenas, and it's this incredible movement of animals, and they're all crossing this one big river, and you wait for them. And that particular image, this stallion was trying to get across the river, and the fear in their eyes, and because they know the crocodiles they're going to run the gauntlet, and they know the crocodiles are waiting for them. And that particular image again was just one of those lucky shots. I hammered him as his mouth was open, his eyes were really big from fear, and you don't get a zebra in water very often. So for us to have got that image, it was absolutely spectacular. It was really,
yeah. I think I
And
used that in one of the ads because I love that image, and I know it got a lot of
yeah,
attention on social
yes,
media.
yes, yes.
So that's what it was. He was getting away from crocodiles, or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
The crocodiles are merciless. I mean, they just fly in there and they just slaughter these animals. The zebras they tend to get through easier because they're a lot stronger and bigger than the wildebeest, and they're more round, so it's difficult for the croc to get a grip on them. But the poor wildebeest, they get hammered. They get absolutely hammered. 'Cause they're
Oh,
not thinner and weaker, and they're not as strong as the zebra. But it's a wonderful experience to go. You don't have to watch that side of it. There's a lot of other beauty as well.
yeah. Well, one thing that I always wonder is because I am such an animal lover, and I wonder how. I know this would be difficult for me, so this is why I ask: how do you separate your emotions and the pain when you see? Because you're photographing wildlife preying on each other, and
Yeah.
how do you separate? That had to be difficult at first, I think. I don't know.
Uh,
Maybe it wasn't.
it's not that difficult because I think you almost distance yourself because of the lens. You know, you're behind a camera. It feels like you're in two different worlds. Much as often the event will be taking place a few meters from you, and you can hear the bones crunching, and you can hear the animals crying out. And it can be macabre. It can be quite macabre, but I've never really had a problem with it. Where I'm not very squeamish. I know it's circle of life. You have to have prey. You have to have predators. Unfortunately, that's the way it's all rolls out and pans out. So, but we do have guests that just turn away. They can't, or they'll close their eyes, or they close their ears, and it's just too much. And then we'll move off if they're really uncomfortable with it. Then we'll rather move away. And again, when we do take guests out, it's about the guests and not about us. We'll try and get the shots if we can, but we position the vehicles, we position the guests so that they get the shots, and they have the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure once you've seen it a lot, you do have to just learn that that's part of the circle of life. So it's
Yeah.
survival. So, but you've already sort of told how you keep yourself safe out there. But it sounds like in these vehicles, you are always exposed. You're not really that protected.
Yeah, you are exposed. It's a completely open vehicle, and the sides are open, and there's no windows, there's no roof. It's like a sports car, but on four-wheel drive. But as long as you don't stand up and show a silhouette, because they see it as just a vehicle, and they don't associate the vehicle with people. And generally, wildlife is scared of people. So if you corner them, they're going to go for you. So don't be stupid, but don't stand up, don't make a noise, keep as still as possible, and they find and often you'll find in some of the gamers, the animals will become quite used to the vehicles. We'll track leopard or we'll track lion, and they don't disturb as long as you keep a certain safe distance and you don't disturb them in their hunting or in their particular whatever they're doing at that particular moment. But it's, again, if you are sensible, it's relatively safe. You never say it's completely 100% safe. Things do happen. And we had a situation where my wife and I were watching a very quiet herd of elephant, beautiful. And they were in a dry riverbed, and we were parked in our vehicle, and they were digging for water. They dig the sand away and the water seeps. So it was a very dry season, and Africa is very dry, as you know. And they would then drink water, or the mother would dig the hole, and the little youngsters would come in and drink some water. And it was very placid scene. It was quiet. It was a nice big herd, and they were standing there to the right of us, and we were watching them and taking photos. And the next minute, out of nowhere, a young bull elephant, a teenager obviously, came in, and he obviously threatened the little calf. And the mother elephant was absolutely enraged, but it happened in seconds. And she chased this bull. She chased the bull right at us, and they literally ran. And these elephants can move pretty fast. You have no idea how quick an elephant is. And they ran straight at us, and the bull went around the front of the vehicle, and the cow went around the back of the vehicle, and they went past, and they chased past. So things happen, and very quickly at times. So sometimes you just got to pray and please, Lord, just protect us on this one, because It can happen quickly.
Would do you carry weapons for
No,
protection at all?
no,
No,
no
no,
weapons, nothing at all. Nothing,
nothing.
nothing at all. No, no.
Wow.
Your intelligence and your bush intelligence hopefully will protect you. But no, we don't have weapons.
Wow. Okay.
No.
Well, have you ever felt really threatened out there, like say by a lion? Have you ever had a really close call experience or?
Once, many years ago, we were on foot in Botswana, and I was with a tracker, and we were tracking honey badgers, which are beautiful little creatures. They are probably the toughest little devils around. In fact, they're a lot like the Tasmanian devil in Australia. They're really tough little guys. And we were tracking them, and as we were going along, probably 30 meters, 20 meters, a lioness stood up right in front of us, and she looked at us. We stopped dead in our tracks. We both looked at her. She had her ears down and her tail was thrashing, which is not a good sign. And we slowly just backed off, and then got out of her zone, because obviously we got too close to her, not realizing she was in the long grass. And we backed off, and then everything was fine again, and off we went. So again, we got too close to her because we didn't see her in the long grass, and she jumped up as she heard us. And I think we surprised her, and she surprised us. But it all ended well.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're brave.
Or stupid.
I think I'd have some kind of weapon with me just in case. But I mean, I know. It's just, I don't know. Oh God, that's so much. But how do you keep it exciting and keep from wanting to plan a shot versus just waiting for it? Because you know, how do you do that?
You know, Tamarah, if I'd have taken to the bush, it's exciting all the time. It's just so incredible. It's I don't know. For me, for some, it's like watching Madonna. You know, you never get tired of it. For me, in the bush and being with those animals and experiencing them, it's just so incredible. It's a blessing we have in Africa. It really is. And and I hope I never get to that point, but I've never had to motivate myself to go to the bush or motivate myself to be excited or look for that moment, because it's just there. It's just so fantastic. It's just so it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Well, I can see that. I think if someone like me we don't have that here in where I live, and so sometimes if you're a photographer, you do have to kind of keep yourself inspired and motivated. But I see what you're saying. I imagine going somewhere like that, there's always something.
Absolutely. There's always something happening, always something taking place.
Yeah. So it probably would be hard to get bored.
No, you don't.
But I'd have to say, what would you say, do you have like a go-to camera or your first camera of choice when you set out on these projects, or do you always, is it always one lens, or how does that work?
My go-to camera is the Canon 1DX Mark II. It's an incredible camera. It's just so quick. It focuses fast. It handles a low light well. It's absolutely brilliant. For me, it's a brilliant camera. And then a 600mm f4 lens. That's my equipment. I have other cameras. I'll have the 5D, and I'll have a smaller lens for occasions when the animals come in a lot closer. But from a quality perspective, my 1DX and my 600mm, that's my weapon of choice. Absolutely love it. I'm used to it. A little bit heavy and a little bit big to handle, but again, you get used to it. And if you're prepared well enough, it's perfect. It's a perfect setup. Absolutely perfect. But some people like Nikon more. Some people like Canon. They're all good. Both are equally good pieces of equipment. But I love my 600 with my 1DX.
Yeah, I saw that on because I always read what you used on your on Facebook, and so I went to B&H. It's called B&H Photo, and I put them on my wish list. But I'm always Googling what you use and going, wow, what's that?
Yeah.
You know? So you're not really changing lenses out there a lot. You're, you know.
We do change. We do change.
You do?
And things happen quickly. Sometimes I'll put in a converter, 1.4 converter, if the image is moving away from me or it's a little bit far and I want a bit more detail. Possibly sometimes use a 100 to 300 lens when the subject's a lot closer. But again, if possible, where possible, I always revert back to the 600. That to me is the image is so sharp. It gives me such quality. It works well for me.
Yeah. So how close are you? What's the closest you have been to some of these, like the lion, say, something that's that?
They can be up to 5 meters. I mean, a little while back, I was on 2 big male lions, brought down a buffalo, which is an incredible feat in itself. For a lion to bring a buffalo, they are powerful beasts. Lions are powerful animals. And we were right on top of them, probably not even 5 meters from them. And the buffalo was still steaming. All the steam was coming out of its belly, the way that opened it up and the throttled the neck. And it had just been brought down. And the lions were out of breath, and the steam, it was in the middle of the night. And the steam, and from them breathing so heavily, the steam was in and out, and it was spectacular. Absolutely, once again, one of those spectacular moments. You can't describe it. The power of that moment, and to listen to them growling, and they fight each other because they become very close bond when they're out there. And then they're bringing something down. But the minute the food's on the table, they become such aggressive eaters, and they fight each other. And there's saliva flying and their teeth, and it's a really, really exciting time. And when they roar, your cavity sort of vibrates, your own cavity. That roar of theirs is just so powerful, and it travels for 5 kilometers or 3 kilometers. So you can imagine how strong it is. And man, it's you can't describe it. You've got to experience it. You've got to feel it.
Oh, wow. It's a rush, I'm sure.
Total rush. Yeah.
It would be for me. Well, let me ask you this now, because the equipment is so heavy. When do you use a tripod versus a monopod? I've never used a monopod. When do you use neither? I mean,
yeah. Look, if we go to a fixed venue, and I know I'm going to consider the waterhole for argument's sake, and I've got to hide, I would then use the tripod, because you stay in one position and you spend the whole day or 2 days or 3 days, and you wait for something to come to you. If you're on foot and you're having a foot safari and you're tracking, you'll take your monopod with. Probably I'll end up shooting hand holding the lens, but again, if you need to hold it for a while, it gets rather heavy because it's quite a heavy lens. Then we'd use the monopod. So it really depends on the environment. If you're in a vehicle, I generally will hand hold it, or I've got a rod across the top bars, and I'll hang it from there. So yeah, and also use a monopod in the vehicle. And you can put it on the floor and you can sort of move around. So it really depends on what the need is.
Yeah. And you can hand hold that pretty steady when you have to?
Yeah, you can. As long as you've got sufficient shutter speed. As long as you got your shutter speed at a sufficient level, you can avoid a lot of the camera shake.
Okay.
And you'll get the shot. You'll get the shot.
Wow. Now, have you ever had any interest, like just for the heck of it, done anything in a studio, or is it always just been wildlife? I mean,
I've tried a bit of macros, of little insects, but I just find it's just not, the adrenaline's not there, and the rush isn't there. So it didn't grab me. It just didn't grab me. Studio work I've never done. The only thing I ever take photos of is my family. I love taking photos of the little guy, and my eldest, he's 18. He's a brilliant, very accomplished photographer. He learned from me, and he's probably overtaken me. But he won a very big competition, Nature's Best. I think you know it from I think the Smithsonian Museum in the States. They have the African leg. It's called Nature's Best Africa. He won that last year, the top photographer, which is fantastic. So him and I spent a lot of quality time together in the bush alone. and it's great father and son time. And then I
Oh,
spend a lot of,
wow.
yeah, he's great, and he's a real birder, and he's a frogger, and he identifies dragonflies, and I think he's the top 34 birder in the country, and he's really fanatical, absolutely fanatical about the bush. So that gives me quality time with him. The little guy, he's 3 years old, and he's as busy as hell, and he's a great subject to take photos of because he's got so much expression, so much energy. He's always up to some mischief, somewhere, something. So when I'm not in the bush, take a little wide-angle lens out and the camera out, and I just lie around in the grass and shoot him. And you end up at the end of the day with a couple of really fun shots. And we just went to Mauritius and with my fantastic wife, and we ended up taking some really great shots from parasailing from up high up in the sky, and then we took shots of her, and it was great fun. So I'm always looking for something to take a photograph of, and I'm very fortunate. I'm blessed with a great family. Very lucky.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
supportive. And
your family's beautiful,
thank you.
So
Thank you.
that's why I wondered if you liked photographing people as well. So yeah. So
good.
well, what do you like most about photographing the wildlife? Is it just the adrenaline, or?
It's it's very, very satisfying when somebody likes your image. So Facebook's a wonderful medium. Instagram's a wonderful medium. I have a lot of followers and a lot of people who are always following me, and it's incredibly satisfying to bring those images and those animals and Africa to the rest of the world. And you get there's a lot of wonderful people out there, and the feedback you get is absolutely fabulous. But I think probably for me, pulling the trigger out there with that camera, getting the shot, the excitement of the bush, those apex predators being so close to you, you can feel their energy, you can feel their power. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I think for me, being out there in the bush is absolutely, that's the be all and end all for me.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite wildlife animal that has that's, I guess, of all that you photographed, that's your favorite?
Yeah, predators. Predators are I love predators. Leopards are the ultimate animal. They're absolutely magnificent. They're secretive. They're very shy. Lions, we have the Kalahari Desert, some of the biggest lions in the world because they're desert lions. So they have to be incredibly strong. They got these massive, massive paws, like giant pizzas. They're very built. They're very. I've had people say, guests that go with me, they say these lions are cut. They look like bodybuilders. They're just these most majestic titan lions, and they exude power. So those boys, and it's just sand. So the photograph is from the paw to the ear, and you get these most incredible images. So those are some of my favorite animals to photograph, the lions of the desert lions, like I say, leopard, but predators. I thoroughly enjoy shooting predators. They are, for me, wonderful. They're just so powerful.
Oh yeah. Is there a particular wildlife animal that you haven't photographed that you really would like to?
Grizzly bears. I've got to get to Alaska and I've got to shoot grizzly bears. I've got to photograph them. It's on my bucket list. Grizzly bears is probably right up there on the top, and tigers in India or Siberia. I've got to photograph grizzlies and tigers. That's on my bucket list. One day when I'm big.
Wow. Well, please tell me you'll take a weapon then. Oh my God.
I've got to go photograph them. They're just so magnificent.
Oh, I can't imagine. I know I've seen them. I've been to seen them in the zoo, and
yes.
And you're very close to them there when they're near the fence, and I can't. No, I don't want to be in the wild with.
The company I'm with, CNP Safaris, they take people to Alaska. I haven't had the trip yet. I haven't been yet, but I hear that you get really close to them. And at one stage, my colleague was with this grizzly mom and 2 young cubs, and they probably got within 50 meters of them. In a river, she was fishing for salmon, and he was sitting there with a couple of clients, and they were photographing, and she was very, very relaxed. And as she moved closer towards them, so they would move back. So they would keep a certain respectful distance from her, which kept her comfortable, and she hardly noticed them. And so that must be really exciting, absolutely. And he got some amazing images of her running through the water, chasing salmon, and the water splashing and the excitement, the energy, really, really magnificent, something special.
Wow, I just can't imagine photographing a grizzly. I have no desire because I'm not a fast runner, and I know that you can't outrun them. You just have to outrun your friends.
That's 100%. You got that right. 100%.
And I don't know. I don't know that I can do that. So I think I'll just look from behind the fence.
You got to come out. You got to come out. One day you got to come out and visit. I'll take you to some special places.
Oh yeah, I do.
We'll change you. We'll change you.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll go home a different person.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know. I love it. This is a good time to talk about the safari company, because tell the viewers a little bit about it and how they can find out more about it, I guess.
Well, they can contact me via Facebook, and everybody's got my details there. But it's a very, very nice outfit, and what we do is we specialize in the overseas tourists predominantly. We do Alaska, we do Botswana, the Delta, we do the Kalahari Desert, we do places in South Africa, we do Kenya, we do Tanzania. So there's a number of places we go to, and the vehicles are spectacular. They're really big vehicles with swivel chairs, big gimbals that you attach two cameras, and you feel like a gunner in a Second World War aeroplane with your two cameras. It's just so exciting. And then when all the cameras are going off, it feels like you're shooting down enemy airplanes. But it's fabulous, these vehicles, and you go cross country and you follow them and you carry on. They're very comfortable. They got air conditioning. They got very comfortable chairs with sidearms and headrests and padded. So they're quite luxurious. So if you're not used to the roughing it and really rough and tough out in the bush and getting dirty and full of dust, these vehicles are a lot more comfortable. We also do Chobe on the Zambezi and the Chobe River, where we have specialist boats. We sit on very flat boats, and you literally you cruise into the middle of the elephants while they're bathing and washing. They have elephants all around you, or hippos and lions on the banks of the river. The elephants all swim past. So very spectacular sunsets and sunrises. Fish eagles coming in catching fish. It's paradise, Tamarah. It's absolutely paradise. Again, it does. I'm not doing it justice. If I could just take you there, you'll come to tears. It is the most beautiful part of the world. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I know it is. I mean, I know I'd love it. I just can't even imagine. And you were talking earlier about the elephants and stuff. Are they typically? I know they can be aggressive, which I never really knew. But is it common, or is it pretty much just like the lions, as long as you respect them? I mean,
yeah, look, there's certain telltale signs. A mother with a young calf, be careful. I've had a colleague of mine attacked. She's a game ranger. She was attacked by an elephant cow. They were tracking them, and a helicopter flew across the front of the herd, spooked them. They turned around, and she saw Ranelle, and they nailed her, and they broke her jaw, they broke her cheekbone, she lost a kidney, her femur was broken. She was absolutely smashed up. So they can be very aggressive. The young bulls, they call mush, they ooze, when they're teenagers, they ooze a certain secretion out their temples. Stay away from them because they're half crazy. They're teenagers, they're a little bit nutty. But generally, again, if you keep your distance, you don't disturb them, you don't threaten them, they're fine. They're fine. But don't get between an elephant cow and a calf. She's gonna go crazy. Likewise, don't get between a hippopotamus and the river, because it's going to take you out. It's got one thing on its mind: it's going to go straight for the river, and it's going to go right through you. So again, don't go near a leopard that's got a cub. She's going to tear you apart like a chainsaw. They're the most they're ruthless. So certain things you don't do, and you stay away, and you keep it a good distance. But generally, most animals, if you respect them, they would rather not interact with you than interact with you, and they would rather avoid you than take you on. So yeah, they're quite gentle. The elephants are pretty gentle as well. Buffalo bulls are very dangerous because they're quite cantankerous. They've been fighting all their lives, so they got bad necks and they got headaches and they got migraines. So if you come across a lone buffalo bull, an old one in the bush, move away quickly because he will charge for no particular reason. He's just angry. He's just angry with the world and he doesn't want anybody near him, so he'll just charge. So you stay away from buffalo bulls. We call them dugger boys because they're always rolling in the mud to get themselves full of mud so that the flies don't bite them and the gnats don't sort of chew on them. They're quite dangerous. They're quite dangerous. Yeah, they're quite dangerous.
I didn't realize elephants were
in the rivers. Don't swim in the rivers. Don't swim because crocodiles will take you. They are supreme apex predators, and they will take you. You're prey. And they don't know the difference between man and beast or anything. They will take you out.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I didn't know that elephants could move that fast either, but you were saying they were pretty fast.
They're faster than Usain Bolt.
Wow.
Much faster. Can you believe it? Those big 5-ton animals, they are super quick. They are super fast.
You guys can't even imagine that. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Well, I know this question is probably hard to answer because there might not, but what do you like least about what you do? Or is there something that is
getting up 2 o'clock in the morning to go and do my shoot? While all of you are sleeping warm in your bed and getting up 2 o'clock and it's cold, and normally the best shots are in the winter, so it's freezing cold outside. You get up, you're really tired, and you got to go to wherever you're going. 3-hour drive, 4-hour drive, go and set yourself up and get yourself ready. So, getting up early in the morning, that's the toughest part. But once you're up, it's the best time of the day. As you watch that sun come up, it's beautiful. It's the best time of the day. But just getting out of that warm bed and moving out the house.
Yeah. Well, you've already answered my next question about a dream place. I know you want. Is there another place besides shooting the grizzlies that you haven't?
Yeah. Look, I love going to Botswana. Botswana, I've been there a number of times, but it is a magnificent place. It is just, they call it God's own country. Kalahari deserts for me are magnificent. It's a very special places. The animals are a lot harder, a lot tougher. So those are the good areas. I wouldn't mind trying India with the tigers. I think that must be very special. Jaguars is another one. But there's only so much time and so much money to be able to do these things.
Right.
But Alaska is what I've got to do. I've got to get to Alaska.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like. Well, that might be the most, because I was going to ask you what the most dangerous situation you've ever been in and how'd you handle it. But is there one besides what we've already talked about, or?
There's been occasions, but nothing terribly dangerous. Again, you got to be careful, and we are careful. You've got to be responsible. You can get such a reputation so quickly for being stupid or for putting your clients at risk and something. So you don't. We manage very carefully. And we try and avoid those type of situations. And it happens. It can happen. And again, when it does happen, just stay in control. Don't do anything stupid. Don't overreact. Stay calm, and generally, 99% of the time, it'll move away. Right.
What advice would you give to someone other than what you just did, who would like to become a wildlife photographer? Would you suggest that they just go the first time on a safari thing, like with your company, or?
Look, I think photography, first of all, it's a passion. You got to have the passion. You got to have patience. You got to have tenacity. You got to be tenacious. Be prepared. If you really get into it and you really start enjoying it, if you want to get that really special, you be prepared to sit for hours and hours and hours in a little room or in a little tent the size of your bathroom. So it can be cramped. It can be uncomfortable. But it's rewarding. It's absolutely rewarding. So patience, passion, hang out with people that know what they're doing, the professionals, try and spend time with them. You don't always have to spend money to spend time with them. A lot of these guys are just so decent, and they love it as much. And they like having people ask them the questions and teaching them and that sort of thing. So people are very forthcoming with regards to photography. Come on a trip it does work really well, because every time I pick up my camera, I tell everybody else, this is what you should be considering. Look at your ISO, keep an eye on your shutter speed, look at your aperture, that depth of field, and you feed in information all the time, and over a 5 or 6 day period, they generally will go back with some pretty good principles to work on, and then from there they'll develop their skills and move forward.
Yeah. Well, that's good advice. That's good advice. If someone wants to purchase some of your photographs, like on a canvas or just as a photograph itself, is there a website they should go to, or just Facebook? Or
we're busy launching a e-commerce enabled website, clint.photography.co.za.
Oh, good.
Yeah, clint.photography.co.za. You can use your credit card, you can use PayPal, all those different methods to purchase, or you can message me on Facebook or Instagram, and I then contact you. We talk to each other by email, and we make the necessary arrangements. Very easy.
So is that website is it up yet, or?
It's going to be up in about a week's time.
Okay, good. I'll have to make sure I get that and post it and put it in my blog as well.
Thank you very much.
Because I would like to know. I know I've got to decide which one I want.
Yeah, and it's hassle free. It's really hassle free, and the turnaround time is very quick. It's about 10 days by the time you get it at your door in the States or Europe or wherever it might be.
Wow, that is quick. That is quick. Okay, great.
Everybody wants their stuff yesterday, so
I know. I know. Well, Clint, I want to thank you today for being here with me. This has just been an honor to have you on my show, because, like I said, I've been watching you for a while, and it's always really cool when I get to actually meet someone that I've been watching for a while, because you're such a just a nice person, and you never know until you actually meet someone, what type of person they're going to be. And it's just been a joy to know that you do care about the animals, and you're a good person, and you got a great family. And is there anything else you wanted to add that we didn't talk about or mention?
No, it's been absolutely fabulous talking to you. It's been a lot of fun, and the pleasure's been all mine. I'm really most grateful to you. I really am grateful. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, I definitely want us to stay in touch.
We will.
And I'm going to thank the viewers, so don't leave. Don't hang up yet. I'll say goodbye after I take us off air. But I want people to know that Clint is on social media. He's on Facebook, and he's on Instagram as, I think it's Ralph _ Clint.
Ralph Clint. Yes,
yeah.
Ralph Clint.
Okay, just right. So I'll make sure, though, that I have all these links under the YouTube video, and also there'll be a replay of this interview in my blog. I'll put it in my blog, and you can also see it on my YouTube channel, Tamarah's Closet, and I'll be sharing it later tonight on social media, all over social media. I'll share the replay as well for those who didn't get to see it live. Make sure you join me next Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for my live interview with a really brilliant artist, Judith Peck, who has actually made it her life's mission to paint about history and healing. So that's going to be interesting. And make sure you share the replay of my interview with Clint today, and help me continue to celebrate this man who's so passionate about wildlife in South Africa. And make sure you follow him on social media so that you can learn more about him. And also, when he posts that website, we'll be able to have easy access to purchase some of his beautiful work. So to my viewers, to your own success, keep rocking it, and take care, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.